Welcome back to another episode of the Royals Farm Report podcast. My name is Alex Duvall. Josh has a vacation today, so I am joined by Joel as always. We will be joined by Alec Lewis here very shortly. Joel, how is your Monday going?
It's been a Monday, so I'm very glad that I have this to wipe off the stink of a normal Monday.
The Royals got boat raced. I thought, hey, the Royals are playing. It's a nice matinee. Maybe they'll come out and show out. Carlos Hernandez looked great for 4 innings, and then Mike Matheny left him to the Wolves in the 5th inning, and he gave up 6 runs. So that was awesome. But yeah, it was definitely a Monday.
Yeah, I mean, you have Baltimore, who I don't think is trying to win yet, and they took 2 out of 3 against the Royals, who are trying to win.
Say they're trying to win.
They say they're trying to win.
I don't believe them, but they say
some of these lineup cards they're rolling out tells me otherwise.
The original cleanup hitter today, Carlos Santana, would have been batting. He's like what, 083?
Somewhere around there, yeah.
Ryan O'Hearn was batting under 100 before the game started. So no matter who they were going to run out there at cleanup, their first baseman, who's also their cleanup hitter, was going to be batting under 100. That is impressive. That is really hard to do.
I mean, it's hard enough to have a negative weighted runs created plus, but Ryan O'Hearn has managed to do that. And with his hit today, I'm pretty sure he went from a -10 to probably right around -5. So he's still 105% worse than league average, still getting big league run every day. But then again, with an RBI single in the first inning, he probably bought himself another week in that cleanup spot.
Yeah, that is that's outstanding. It's great managing. It's great coaching. I love that Ryan O'Hearn is still getting every day at bats. So really quickly, before we get into the minor league minute, here's a quick shout out to our sponsor, KCSC, for picking up the show this year.
From the beginning, we knew right away that we wanted to do strength conditioning and a throwing program for the baseball and softball community. It wasn't something we were trying to back into or all of a sudden learn. We knew we were really good at coaching these skills from the get-go, and the fact that we're in the same business and the employees are all on the same page, we can write a program based off of what a kid needs, not just getting him stronger or faster from a general sense. It's what does this kid need? On the pitching end, we can say, hey, this kid needs such and such. He needs to do this or that better. A lot of times it turns out it's not something that needs to be fixed in the baseball cage or on the throwing mound. It actually needs to be fixed in the weight room.
Big thanks to KCSC, Kansas City Strength and Conditioning, for picking up the show this year out there at home field in Olathe. If you've got a child, baseball, softball of all ages, get them out there, get them training, get them right. So really quick, Joel, we are going to do the minor league minute just like we did last week, where I am going to blitz through it. We will stop for pitchers and players of the week. We'll talk about our MVP, and then we are going to get Alec in here in the next 10 minutes. So really quickly, down in Columbia has been a very interesting group to watch this year. They have an extremely high ceiling. They have an incredibly low floor. They play some great baseball. They play some horrific baseball. They make a ton of errors. They steal a ton of bases. They hit some home runs. Edgar Martinez, who is Joel's player of the week, not that Edgar Martinez, granted, a different Edgar Martinez, playing down in low A for the Royals. We'll get to in just a second. I wrote about Carter Jensen in the minor league minutes this year. Carter Jensen is having some of the worst luck I have ever seen from a prospect in the early going. It reminds me a lot, and I've tweeted this before, of what Vinny Pasquantino was going through at high A to begin last year. Hitting the ball hard, walking, not striking out too much, and just having a run of bad luck. His BABIP is 189. He's one of 5 players in all of low A to have a BABIP under 200. He is 18. The average player in that league is 21. The average pitcher is 22 years old. He is still 18, competing against players much older than he is. So Carter Jensen's having a rough go, but I expect him to snap out of it. I am not concerned at all with Carter Jensen. I am concerned with Eric Pena. He is addicted to striking out right now. I don't really know what the issues are there. It's a terrible approach. There's almost no approach. And so that's one thing that the Royals are going to have to work with Eric Pena on is you don't have to swing at every pitch. You can be selective. You can be picky in certain counts. Here's when you can be picky. Here's when you need to be more aggressive. Eric Pena, not good in the early going. Luinder Avila had another great start. 5 innings, 5 Ks, 1 or 2. I got it right here. 1 earned runs, 5 Ks, and 5 innings. That kid continues to impress me. He continues to do a lot of good things, even though he's not the most prolific pitching prospect in the world. Columbia, not having the best go of things. They did win on Sunday to move their record to 10-17. Up in Quad Cities continues to be hit or miss. They only scored more than 3 runs once in their entire series against Cedar Rapids. They did win 2 games. They're 11-16 now. They lost 1-2 on Sunday. Cam Williams now leads the organization in home runs with 6. He is tied with Vinny with 6 home runs to lead the organization. He is also striking out in literally 50% of his plate appearances. So very much hit or miss for Cam Williams. Don't know what to make of that, except that Sully Matias is in awe of how Cam Williams is hitting the ball so far this year. Peyton Wilson's been hitting well. Luca Tresh has the best weighted runs created plus in the entire Royals minor league system. His OPS, the raw numbers aren't there, but he's playing in a league where there's not a lot of offense right now. So his strikeouts are up, but his overall offensive production is statistically the best in the entire system compared to the league he is in. Christian Chamberlain continues to strike out the world. He has one of the best K rates in the entire minor league system. He's being used mostly as a long reliever now, so he's not starting, throwing like bulk, but he is throwing 2 innings, 3 innings at a time, striking out the world. Christian Chamberlain looks very impressive. Northwest Arkansas got their record above 500. They are 14-13 with a 9-5 win on Sunday. Joel, they actually stole a save opportunity from your guy, Jeffrey Del Rosario. Would have been another couple of points in the RFR Fantasy League. They scored 4 in the 9th, took the save opportunity right out of his hands. So Jeffrey Del Rosario did not get a save, but he now has the second best ERA in the system, 1.77. Not the best FIP. His FIP is like 4 points higher than his ERA, but getting the job done when it matters in a relief role. Michael Garcia, Nick Lofton, Michael Massey, Robbie Glendenning, Nate Eaton, Tucker Bradley, all hitting. That lineup is hot. That lineup is dangerous when they're hot, and the pitching staff is coming around. Finally got a good start from Anthony Veneciano on Sunday, which is great to see. His command had been horrific in the early going, so really good to see Anthony Veneciano back at it. Up in Omaha, their record is also finally over 500, 15-14 for the Storm Chasers with a 4-3 win on Sunday. That is without Nick Prado. That's without MJ Melendez. They continue to play good baseball. The bullpen is nails. If you thought the big league bullpen was pretty good, wait until they start bringing guys up from Omaha. Foster Griffin, my pitcher of the week, 2 1/3 innings pitched on Sunday, 3 Ks, no walks, no hits, no runs. In fact, Joel, Foster Griffin this week threw 4 innings. He didn't give up a single hit, a single walk, a single hit by pitch, and he struck out 4. Foster Griffin looks like the pitcher that we always thought he would be back in like 2016. He's starting to work his way through. He's not starting anymore, but he looks great in that relief role.
Where's his velo been? Have you seen?
Right back to where it was, 89-93.
Okay.
So, I mean, he is literally back to exactly what he had been, throwing good sinkers at the bottom of the zone, mixing in his slider and changeup, being really effective out of the bullpen. So, really good to see as he works his way back from Tommy John. If you remember, Foster Griffin made his big league debut on his birthday, tore his UCL in that game, had Tommy John, and has not pitched in the big league since. I would imagine he is on their short list of guys to call up if an opportunity arises. He is no longer on the 40, though, so that would require a 40-man transaction to get him in the big league bullpen. But he's looked really good down there in Omaha. So has Colton Brewer, Jose Cuas. So Foster Griffin is my pitcher of the week. My player of the week is Darryl Collins. Darryl Collins had a 120 weighted runs created plus this week. He continues to not hit for any power, but he did start to get his strikeout to walk ratio back on track. In 6 games in Columbia, he had 6 walks, just 1 strikeout. So his approach is back, his hit tool's back. It's just a matter of finding ways to help Darryl Collins get some of that raw power that we know he has. We know it's in there. How do we get to it more frequently? I like the change they made, standing him up a little taller, creating some more leverage, but we'll see how that plays through. Joel, go ahead and give us your pitcher and player of the week.
All right, so my pitcher of the week is Drew Parrish. I know that's helping out Josh a little bit in our fantasy league, but 2 really good starts this week against, looks like we got one against Amarillo and one against Springfield. He went 5 innings, 4 strikeouts, 2 earned runs, not too bad there. And then comes out on Saturday, 7 shutty, only 2 hits, and 4 strikeouts. He's never going to be a big strikeout guy, but just knows how to get dudes out, is able to mix and match his stuff really well, is able to pulls the string really nicely on a changeup. Fastball's not overpowering, but it plays really well with his other stuff. A guy that we're a pretty big fan of here. And then you mentioned him a little bit ago, Edgar Martinez. If you can tell by my hoodie, if you're watching on YouTube, big Mariners guy. So that's a pretty nice name to have if you're a ball player. Over the last week, hitting 421 with a 476 on base, 1 OPS. That's usually a pretty good sign. Not a ton of power there, only 1 home run, but put the bat on the ball a significant amount this week. 8 strikeouts isn't great, but I'm not too concerned about him right now. I mean, he's 21 years old. I think this is his first year in full season ball. So, but 421 week, that'll help the confidence a little bit.
Yes, it will. Speaking of a 421 week, Michael Massey this week hit 421 with a 500 on base and a 150 weighted runs created plus. Michael Massey is our weekly MVP. So we've bounced around a bunch of hitters, haven't had a pitcher put together 2 really good starts yet to be deserving of MVP. So Michael Massey had 7 singles and a double, 4 walks, 5 strikeouts, a 421 average, and was really good defensively at second base, like always. So that is our minor league minute, brought to you guys by Drum Farm. Drum Farm Center for Children is a foster care center off Lee Summit Road in Lee Summit, Missouri. It is right off the golf course. So you're probably, if you've been out there to the golf course, you've probably seen it. They have some incredible facilities for foster care families, a Compass program for kids who have aged out of the foster care system. They do some of the best foster care work in the Kansas City area, as far as I'm aware. So Drum Farm picking up the minor league minute this year. Thank you very much to them and their supporters for sponsoring the minor league minute. That has been the minor league minute. All right, you ready to get to Alec?
Let's do it.
All right, we are now joined by Alec Lewis of The Athletic. Been doing some really good work over at The Athletic. If you're not subscribed to The Athletic, I don't know what you're doing, but go subscribe to The Athletic. Alec, without blowing smoke up your ass too much, I appreciate the digging you do into the analytics, into the background of the inner workings of baseball, instead of just focusing on the players and all the stuff we see every day, but trying to get to some of the stuff we don't get to see a lot of. So thank you for the work that you're doing. I enjoy reading it, and thanks for joining us tonight.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Please don't blow any more smoke. The entire
Homer.
Podcast. Yeah, thank you.
Dayton Moore's mouthpiece.
That is more what I'm looking for. But no, people know in the organization and outside, I guess. Like, I'm fascinated by figuring out why things are why they are. And I feel like I've long felt like if I'm doing this job and I want to do it the best I can, then I better know this stuff, or else I'm not giving myself the best chance to cover it the best way. So that's the explanation. We can get back to my homerism. But no, thank you guys for having me.
Well, here's a chance for you to crap all over everything they're doing right out of the gate. Why is Ryan O'Hearn playing first base and not Vinny Pasquantino?
Can't answer that. I cannot answer that question. Vinny Pasquantino, it's interesting. I wrote last week that, look, if the Royals are trying to win this year, they should probably have the guys who can give them the best chance playing every day. I believe Vinny Pasquantino, with his plate discipline in the minor leagues, has proven that it can translate to big league level. People say the pitching he's going to face is better, so he'll probably struggle. Yeah, that is how it goes. But with young guys, you kind of need that buffer zone. You need that time for them to get acclimated to the big league level, and then you roll. And right now, I've got a column coming Tuesday morning, whenever this runs. But it's like this team, and I felt like this for a long couple of years now, I guess, or a year, I don't know. Whenever I realize it, it's like they have 1 foot in the water of the present, 1 foot in the water of the future. Both are really cloudy right now, and that's just where they're at. But Vinny Pasquantino is the future. I think when you're in a rebuild, you likely look toward the future. And so, yeah, I don't have anything for you. I apologize.
I said it on One Royal Way last week that if you're, you have the 30th ranked offense in baseball, you've scored 2 runs or less in nearly half your games, 12 out of 26 games. Like, what do you have to lose bringing some of these guys up and just seeing what they have? If you really believe that the future is coming soon, then get some of those guys that are going to be on the next good Royals team in there. And I don't know, maybe it works. Or maybe we're all stupid, but I don't know. I'd like to believe that some of these young guys are providing better at bats than we've seen from guys that have it's been well established. They are not a part of the future.
Yeah, I didn't expect – I mean, when they called up MJ Melendez when they did, I didn't expect that to happen. I thought they would just go the traditional backup catcher route and bring up Sebastian Rivero. The numbers that MJ Melendez had weren't great. I know he's hitting into some hard luck, and the weather has been abysmal in Omaha. So, it made sense to me. It's like, we need hitting. We're not hitting. Let's bring up somebody who can I don't know, showcase the type of at-bat that's just different. I've said this numerous times in stories. I've said it to people in the press box prior to the point where they're tired of hearing it. But when you watch some of these young guys take at-bats, plate appearances, whatever you want to call them, it's a different thing. They're very selective. They go up there with a very distinct plan. It's the way they were raised through this hitting development department, and it showcases at the big league level. So I'm with you, Joel. I mean, at this point, you got a lot of guys who aren't going to be a part of the next championship winning team, whenever that may be, struggling. Why not have the guys who are potentially going to be part of that potential championship winning team present?
I say this in jest. I say it tongue in cheek. I'm being facetious. Whatever else you need me to say to so that you know that I'm kidding. But I really believe, wink, wink, that part of it is they're afraid of making the veterans look bad. MJ Melendez has come up and had the best plate appearances in the lineup for all 3 games he's played in. If they bring up Vinny Pasquantino and he puts up marked better improvements or better plate appearances than the guys that are already there, Drew Saylor is going to look way better than Terry Bradshaw. The kids are going to look way better than the veterans. Maybe they're just afraid he'll make everybody else look bad.
I know you're being facetious there. I'm trying to think of a way to move forward from that. But, I mean, look, they've talked about wanting to win and winning for – Joel rattled off the 30th in the league, 20 – I've read so many numbers, 27th in the league, 28th in the league. My head hurts, honestly. If you talk about winning – you should probably have the best, smartest, most capable people present at the biggest stage. That's just how I feel. I've watched a lot of these games, probably too many for mental health purposes over the past few years. It's puzzling at times. I mean, it really is. You hear again. We've heard so much about wanting to win, about trying to win, about putting together a group that is collaborative with veterans and everybody. They want to win no matter what type of player exists on this roster right now. There is frustration. There's frustration within the clubhouse from the player side. There's frustration within the organization and certain people. There's frustration from agent. I mean, it is that type of situation right now. So whatever you can do to give yourself the best chance at steering the ship on the path seems like the route that should be taken at this point.
All right, you're here to talk about minor league baseball. So
hang on,
let's shift the conversation away.
Before we do that, I was literally about to say the same thing. I promise we can get away from this team. Last big league question. You don't have to answer it. Did it look to you like they quit in the 6th inning today? After the 5th inning debacle?
I mean, it looked to me like they're down 5 to the Orioles, and if you're not like malaise at that point, I mean, I don't know if they quit. I don't know about that. I'm not trying to run from the question here. We could talk about effort. We could talk about all this stuff. Just the roster right now and where it sits is not. This is not a winning situation. It's just not. We knew going into this year they were running it back essentially with the same lineup plus Bobby Witt Jr. Bobby Witt Jr. has been really good of late, honestly. I mean, he's been leading off for crying out loud. But this is the same roster, and guys who you expected to produce on this lineup are not. And so we could, again, talk about effort, talk about flip-flopping the lineup, talk about giving Witt a day off, even though they were just off for like 3 days. We could do all this, but the roster was constructed the way it sits right now. And that, to me, is more than anything else where I think that's the situation. It's just not that puzzling, not that surprising.
So, now we can be done talking about the big league club, at least for the time.
Yeah, you got me worked up. It is what it is.
Man, I don't envy you. You're a journalist having to cover a 9-17 baseball team that was supposed to be semi-decent. So I don't envy you in that regard.
At least they've been really good in the last few years, though.
Right. Exactly. So we haven't seen any of the top 3 2021 draftees in Mazzucato, Kudrna, Panzini yet. We know they're down in Arizona getting ramped up and ready. I don't hate the move of easing these guys into full season ball. Has there been any indication of when we could see them possibly in a move to Columbia at some point?
Yeah, I think it'll happen sooner rather than later. I mean, you said it. They've kept these guys in Arizona, and I think they want these guys to smell like when they're going out there to compete, like we're going to attack this because we haven't competed in this type of way for so long. And I don't know if that's the perfect strategy or not. We're going to find out, but it will be soon enough. I'm very confident that they'll be in Columbia soon enough. Be interesting. You guys, I mean, you mentioned the errors that team's had, and I've kind of followed that. And I know they've been really young, but for those young guys, a porous defense isn't probably the most ideal. But I do think you'll see all of them very, very soon. And honestly, I've talked to scouts down in Arizona who have seen them pitch, and the reports have been good. I mean, Frank Mazzucato, it sounded like, has looked good. Ben Kudrna, I think, has surprised some people, some scouts, opposing scouts, even in terms of just the type of stuff you guys know he has, but the velocity and that type of stuff. So, but yeah, they were drafted last year. It'd be interesting to see these guys in actual games with uniforms that aren't Royals surprise Arizona style.
Do you like, in theory, how they're handling this?
I mean, I don't know enough about like how other teams have operated with their really young guys. I mean, I know they focused a lot. The Royals have focused a lot with these guys on developing a changeup, throwing the changeup a lot in catch play. We'll see if that works out or not. I think, I don't think you ever want to put a player of that age in a situation where they're just completely overmatched, and I don't think they will be at all. And I think, if anything, I probably expect them to kind of overmatch some of the hitters because of how young that league is. But this is another one where I'm just not giving you a straight answer. I just don't really know enough about how other teams operate. And I think I can understand it for now until, I don't know, we look at it in hindsight and then hear certain things or not. But I think they've really just allowed these guys to do their thing, get on their program, and take it slow. And I don't know. I mean, with the big league crop being where it is, there's not really a rush, in my opinion. I mean, these guys are 18 years old, so.
Well, and that's where I'm at. And I was listening to, and no offense to Seren, but I was listening to Seren Petro the other day speak negatively about the fact that none of these guys have debuted. And respectfully, I couldn't disagree more. I love it, because if you draft a prep arm, I think what the Royals have done in the past is, here's what we want you to do. Now go do it. Get out there on the mound and go do exactly what we want you to do. And I think what they've done now is, hey, here's what you do well. Here's what you can add to your arsenal. Let's perfect it, get you bigger, get you stronger, so that your body can uphold the workload of a regular season, so that your body is big enough, strong enough to handle what we're going to ask you to do. And then when you're ready, we'll send you out there. It's like you said, there's no rush. The Royals have so many young arms, and it's not like a prep arm is going to go from high school to the big leagues in 2-3 years anyway. Don't rush it. We have talked about this in group chats literally for years, where have a pitching school. Draft high school kids, put them in pitching school, put them in the weight room, and don't let them on a mound until their bodies are ready for it. And I think they've done a bang-up job of adapting on the fly. I mean, look at Ben Hernandez. Ben Hernandez gets drafted, goes right to low A last year, and by all accounts and purposes, I mean, he's not been very good this year. His fastball it runs, but it's kind of like Brady Singer's with less life. It's just he's getting hit around a little bit. I like what they've done with these guys. Let's wait until they're ready, build them in a lab, and then when we think the final product is close to being ready to roll, unleash them on the league. And, you know, for an organization who we knock all the time about being able to develop prep arms, they are doing something that is drastically different than we've ever seen them do, and I applaud them for it. I applaud them for changing. And I talk about this all the time on Twitter. We talked about it when we're talking about playing O'Hearn and Santana all the time. if it's not working, trying the same crap over and over again is the worst thing you can do. I don't care what the adjustment is, but try something different. And in my opinion, they've done that. And so, I've listened to a few people be concerned about it. And it's the last thing I am is concerned. And so I didn't know if you'd heard anybody, applaud them or say, hey, this is but I mean, I haven't heard from anybody who would know better a single negative word about how they've handled it so far.
No, me neither. And I guess, you mentioned some people. I think that's just people with organizational skepticism at this point, where it's like, they drafted this guy, they're not winning. But the reality is, to your point, they're 18 years old. They just finished, high school. Their bodies, you've seen Frank Mazzccott. I've seen him up in close. He's got a lot to grow. I think that projection is part of the reason they selected him. But there's some elements of each of these guys, and I'll just take Frank Mazzccott. His fastball carries in the zone. It's much different than a lot of the 2018 guys that they drafted in terms of their fastballs are kind of sinker-ish, four-seam-ish, and aren't elite fastballs. And if you're watching the game right now, you could look at a guy like Hunter Green, who has a fairly elite fastball. But if you're not locating, it takes both of those. But if you either have to have the elite piece, the elite movement on it and locate it pretty well, or if you don't have the elite movement, you got to locate unbelievably well, which is just incredibly difficult because the human body doesn't work that way. So I'm rambling, but I do think I think they've handled it totally normal. And it sounds from all reports that I've had from a lot of people inside and or outside the organization, those guys have progressed. I remember having a scout in the fall league telling me, he's like, I saw these guys in high school, and a couple of them have changeups that look better than they did when I saw them in high school. That was just a pretty easy observation. But it'll be interesting to see once they get on the mound for sure what they look like, what their usages are, how they fare against the competition. It's something to watch, no doubt about it.
I want to get back to the hitters here in a minute, but before we leave the pitchers for now, do we have any updates on Asa Lacy? I know lots of people are asking. He leaves a start, or he misses a start due to back tightness. Hasn't pitched in a couple weeks. Do we? I've seen videos of him playing catch. He's clearly with the club. They did have Angel Zerpa skip a start. It sounds like from everything I've seen that Angel Zerpa's okay. He threw a bullpen when he was supposed to start. Is this something that they've done on purpose, or is Asa Lacy injured, or do we know what's up with him?
Zerpa, I don't know, and I'm just speaking totally honest here. Asa, I do know the situation. And I'll write some of this, so I'm not going to probably give the full thing, but it was just a random back spasm essentially that they couldn't pinpoint in terms of, it was nothing structural, nothing wild, but just popped up out of random and I think was tough enough to where they did have him miss that start that was going to be on TV against Jack Leiter. I think they've taken it fairly easy since because of, this is a guy that you just can't test anything with, given how important he probably is to what they're trying to do. I think he's going to be throwing soon, try to build up, and I guess they'll see how the back responds. But I think it was just a one-off. They went through the medical test. They went through just the what he'd done in days prior. Nothing had changed, and it was just kind of one of those things. And it's tough because it did look like. And I'd have to go back to really analyze it, but I'm pretty sure he started to kind of get into more of a rhythm in terms of just keeping the ball around the zone. And he doesn't have to be so pinpoint because his pitches are so elite. But it seemed like he was getting a rhythm for kind of the first time since they drafted him in 2020. So for that to happen, not ideal. I don't have a timetable for when he'll be back on the mound, but I think they'll just monitor it. He should be throwing. If he's not already throwing, it should be pretty soon.
We know Nate Webb had some stiffness. He'll be back in another month or two. And then Will Klein is the other guy we haven't seen yet from shin splints. Mm-hmm. Now, I think the average person would hear that and go, shin splints, are you kidding me? But the amount of drive and recoil that you get out of your lower legs pitching, pitching with shin splints would be really not just difficult, but dangerous because the recoil that your legs absorb, you would think would lead other places. And so to protect his elbow and shoulder, I'm sure they shut him down. Have you heard anything about Will Klein? And then we'll get to the hitters.
Yeah, I think he's built up a little bit, and I think he should be in Northwest Arkansas fairly soon, pitching in games, and I think as a starter. But yeah, I mean, you said it, like the energy transfer moves from the ground through the lower half and then transfers into the upper body and the arm, obviously. So messing with the potential energy in the lower half would probably not be smart. So they similarly, I mean, Will Klein, I wrote it this offseason, but with the work he did this offseason in St. Louis, and from some of the stuff I heard, I mean, he's a guy that within the system on the pitching side that I think a lot of people will be keeping their eye on if he stays healthy. But yeah, should be back fairly soon.
Let's move really quickly to some of the hitters. Nick Lofton, center fielder or not?
I haven't seen him in center field, but I did talk to a scout. I had a scout actually ask me about, like, why is he playing there every day? Does that mean he can't? And I the reason I think is this system has a hole in center field. I mean, they don't have a center fielder for the future. Michael A. Taylor's under contract next year. His bat, while it's not great, given the run environment this year, it's actually been like somewhat close to average, and that his defense is what it is. But beyond Michael A. Taylor, there's just not a center fielder in the system. And I think the Royals believe the makeup of Nick Lofton and his athleticism gives him a shot out there. I've talked about Nick Lofton, I've had a lot of scouts rave to me about Nate Eaton. And I know, I mean, one guy was drafted where he was and another guy was drafted where he was, but I mean, Nate Eaton, and you guys mention him a lot, but when I'm talking to people from opposing teams, his name gets brought up in terms of his arm, in terms of his range, in terms of just how he plays. So I'm shifting the conversation. But Nick Lofton, center field, I mean, if not him out there, then who for the future beyond an acquisition or a trade piece?
Well, when I saw him a couple of weeks ago, because I went to one game in Frisco when Northwest Arkansas was down there, and he looks pretty good out there, honestly. It's not obviously the blazing speed or anything, but his baseball instinct is really what does it. He's a good enough athlete to be able to go and run stuff down. It has a good feel for the ball in the air. So I don't know how it'll translate to a massive outfield at Kauffman Stadium, but I think the baseball IQ combined with good enough athleticism, I think gives him a decent chance to stick. And they've obviously believed that he can, considering he started all spring in the backfield games in center field, and they haven't moved him out of center field all season. So they obviously believe that he could be that guy.
Yeah, and Rusty Kuntz, I remember in spring before the lockout ended, Rusty was raving about him and working with him, and Rusty worked closely with them. But yeah, and I'm laughing at myself because I was like, I haven't seen him out there. Even if I did, I'm not an outfield evaluator, so it would probably just lean on scouts, but it will probably require more time and just to see how capable he is. But again, that's just a hole, and they're trying to fill it.
Part of me wonders too if they haven't looked at their overall infield and gone, okay, before the ACL, we had Mondesi, Lopez, Bobby, maybe Michael Massey is the second baseman of the future.
Garcia.
Maybe Nick Lofton's overall future is in the outfield somewhere. So let's put him in center field, and then if he can't handle it, we can always move him to a corner off of that. I look at Nick Lofton, and I don't see the raw speed it would take for him to play center field at Kauffman Stadium. But every time I say that, I get a text from somebody else, somebody new, saying I wouldn't count on that. And it's like, I don't know what I'm missing, but he missed a play the other day where I'm watching it going, I don't know what we're doing here. But I also don't think it can do any harm. I mean, you run him out there, and if he's not good, then okay, so what? Would move him to left field as he moves to the system. Maybe he's the left fielder of the future when Benintendian is inevitably gone, and Kyle Isbell's not your everyday left fielder because it doesn't seem like that's what they want from him. So I don't know. Maybe that's the case, but I think it's interesting, like Joel said, that they have not moved off of that yet. They haven't even given him a day on the infield to rest. In fact, the one day off they gave him, the half day off they gave him was as a DH. So I think it's interesting. He's been playing center field. There's some interesting thoughts. I don't know that I'm on board, but I don't think it can hurt either. Let's talk about that second tier of hitting prospects, because a lot of them are right there in Double-A. Michael Massey, Nate Eaton, like you mentioned, Luca Tresh and Tyler Gentry are both down in High A, but you also have Robbie Glendening there in Double-A, and I'm not completely sold that he's not a prospect of some sort yet. What do you think about this second tier? We can even include Darryl Collins in this list, by the way. What do you think about this second tier of guys? Because when the Royals were good, they brought up the young core, and it's like, okay, that's it. And we're back to not having much of a farm system again. And it was like, you needed a Christian Colon to come around. You needed Bubba Starling, Hunter Dozier to push through and be that other guy, and none of them made it. This time around, let's just say it's 2024. Everything has worked out wonderfully. Prado's your starter. Pasquantino's a starter. Melendez is a starter. You have your core in place. There's a list of like 5 or 6 guys that I think could come through, one of them, 2 of them, and be like big league regulars, like in some capacity. And I don't know, maybe I'm looking through royal colored glasses, but what do you think of this second tier of hitters?
Question: what do I have to do to get you to name Michael Garcia?
I forgot to mention him. I think I mentioned him to you in the message.
Is he in that tier, or is he? I can't. I'll tell you one thing.
Is he not in the first tier?
No, I think he's in whatever big tier. All I'm saying is I hear about this guy from a lot of people in rave reviews all the time, and I haven't probably watched him close enough. But defensively, you hear about him. The plate discipline, you hear about him. The instincts, and just kind of the way he operates. I'm telling you, among all the guys we're about to talk about hitting wise, and Michael Massey's been really, really good. But I mean, Michael Garcia, from people I'm like this, I hear a lot about him, and I think he's a guy. I don't know what the power potential is. I don't know if he can hit enough to be that like everyday impact guy, but I think the floor is just so high from what I've heard from certain scouts, given the defensive ability and the plate discipline. I didn't mean to sidetrack you on Michael.
No, it's okay. I've got him. For me, he's right behind Lofton and Pasquantino and ahead of Massey and all the other guys we talked about.
Yeah, no, it's where it sounds like. But you're right in terms of if the Nick Prado, the MJ Melendez, Vinny Pasquantino, if that group is there, and then you have guys like Massey and Nate Eaton and Clay Dungan, and I mean, there's a group of a lot of these guys who are, I think in scout verbiage, they would call them like utility types. But I think some of these guys have abilities that could play every day. I mean, Michael Massey has just not stopped hitting. He just hasn't. And I think it's a testament to the Royals hitting development department, kind of the way they have helped him along. Drew Saylor and Alex Zumwalt in that group. I mean, in terms of again, like I've had scouts rave to me about Nate Eaton. So I don't really know what happens. I mean, I think that depth, as we're seeing right now with the Royals at the big league level, like you just have to have it, and you have to have an abundance of it, of guys who could come up, get their opportunity, and see what happens, and have the type of tools and skills and makeup to be able to make it happen. But I think when you reference the days of the past, it is. I think it's really positive that they have a buffer of these guys. Now, you said it, like not all these guys are going to be everyday guys. It's just the reality of it. But I think some of these guys have abilities and skills that should translate every day. And if the Royals aren't going to give them a shot, I think others might. So it's a plus. There's no doubt about it.
So you mentioned Nate Eaton as a guy that other teams and other scouts have mentioned as a guy. Is there been anybody else that you have paid attention to this year or heard from other scouts and teams as someone maybe that kind of jumps off the page a little more that we don't talk about enough?
I'm trying to think. Not off the top of my head, anything crazy or anybody wild. I mean, you guys talked about Jose Cuas and what he's done. He's just it was awesome to tell that story in spring, and it's just been cool to see him progress. But in terms of other guys, not a ton doesn't jump off the page. I mean, I think that high A group is pretty interesting. Gentry and certain guys I haven't seen enough, haven't heard probably enough about. I think there are other guys at that level that are intriguing and definitely will get looks from scouts and be on their list. But otherwise, no. I mean, I think the Nate Eatons, the Michael Garcia, those are the guys that Will Kleins, those are the guys that come up often and have recently for me.
Have there been any big surprises for you so far this season? And we can go back and include the big league level if you want. Let's stick with good surprises, guys. You are surprised have been better than maybe you expected, because I think we're all surprised by how poorly Whit Merrifield is hitting. So let's stick with the positives. Has there been anybody who maybe you had crossed off? Because I think the guy, for me, that maybe I wasn't as sold on is Luca Tresh. And, you know, I knew the Royals obviously liked him for giving him what they gave him, but I just didn't see this. And he has surprised the hell out of me. I mean, he is raking right now. Again, he's striking out a little bit, but the bat has more impact than I ever would have given him credit for. So is there anybody who is surprising you in like a good way? Maybe you crossed him off, you didn't think as highly of him, and you're like, okay, I apologize for thinking so poorly of you. This guy's awesome.
Trying to think of good. I've got a bad in mind, which is probably tells you everything.
Here, no, go ahead. Throw it out there.
No, I mean, Anthony Veneziano's start has kind of been puzzling to me. And I've talked to certain people about his delivery and just the interesting nature of it. It's just obviously it's a different look. And I think to the point that it intrigues the people who make this in. I mean, it intrigues people from other teams just because you're not seeing anything like that often. But I think, I mean, I've gone through video of a lot of these young pitchers in the minor leagues and just kind of looked closely and tried to just analyze. And the thing with Veneziano is just it hasn't been locating, and then you could just see how frustrated and how much it's worn on him. And I think that it's probably just exacerbated the situation. But I think his most recent outing was much better in terms of control, and that's important. But that's a guy that comes to mind in terms of I mean, really good. I'm trying to think. I mean, to hear like certain people talk about Nate Eaton the way they have has definitely caught my eye. I just keep going back to the pitching and just some of the guys struggling. I mean, you could go down a lot of these minor league. I mean, Jackson Kowar, surprise. It's just been it's an interesting run for him. I mean, even guys like Steven Woods Jr., who they acquired and just hasn't. I mean, there was one point last year where I'm pretty sure I saw him throw like a 93-mile-an-hour cutter. Now I don't think he's even throwing that cutter. Not really sure that situation. But just certain stuff like that just kind of catches my eye. I mean, you go down some of the pitcher statistics. It's just kind of eye-opening. Yeah, it's an interesting. I obviously don't follow it as closely, and I've just been so in tune to the big league guys. But I do hear and look often and try to keep in touch with all of it, and talk to scouts on a daily basis about it. So it's an interesting. I'm not still naming off guys, but a lot of different elements to what's going on. I mean, you mentioned Eric Pena too, and just the swing and miss that's persisted. I think he's made some changes, but I mean, the plate discipline type element, and I always wonder, like, how innate is that? How much can that be taught? How much is that approach versus visual eyesight type? It's one of those questions that remains. I'm really looking forward to seeing Daniel Vasquez play whenever that happens, shortstop from the DR. Heard a lot of good things about. So there are guys, it's an interesting system right now.
There you go. Everybody who thinks Alec is a homer, I asked him to be positive, and he just rattled off 5 things that were negative about the system. So we can kill the Alec Lewis is a homer sentiment right then and there. I mean, right here on the RFR podcast, he cannot be a homer because
it's just what comes to mind.
Nothing positive to say.
I'm trying to be. I mean, I have a
how about Colin Snyder? Did you expect this from Colin Snyder? I didn't. I didn't buy it.
I did not.
No, I mean, no, I would be absolutely lying. But I will tell you, after speaking with certain people at Vanderbilt, a couple pitching staffers, and hearing the level at which they spoke about pitching and the work that they spoke with Colin in terms of pitching, I was like, oh, okay, they're noticing these data points that they are relaying to me that I can relay to other people. That is awesome. And I think, and I mean, you can't really. The numbers don't really lie, and his sinker, I mean, they would explain to me how different it was. I checked that with multiple pitching coaches around the country who are into the analytical sphere, and really bought into it. And yeah, I mean, he developed that slider with Vanderbilt, working with some technology that they have down there. And I guess that's the byproduct of that. He's been unbelievably good. He's just like in the clubhouse. The funny thing about Colin's, like, never says a word, rock solid, just a guy, and he just goes out there in the most important situations, and he's going to get you a ground ball every time. And I think the teammates love him for that. So cool deal. I would have never predicted it. No, I'm an idiot. Not possible.
All right, Joel, you got any final questions for Alec?
I got one final one, and we're gonna have some fun here as we always do with the final question on this show. You've been on enough. You don't get to answer the baseball history question. We get to go. We're going a little off the board. What is your go-to karaoke song? If you don't have one or are not a karaoke guy, how many cocktails would it take you to get up there on stage and sing something?
Yeah, that's good, Joel. That is good. I'm not like, I would never be just your normal karaoke. I don't have that kind of confidence in myself. 6 drinks in, maybe that's too many. 4, maybe I'm drinking too much. 4 drinks in, you'd get me up there. And I've been on a country kick lately, but I'll listen to anything, like rap, anything, but some kind of country. I don't know. I was listening
what kind of country?
I was listening today. I was listening to like just a bunch of. I could get myself in trouble with an observation here, but I'll keep it. I was listening to the song "Blue Tacoma" by Russell Dickerson today. That was the song I listened to.
That's not country. That is Nashville. There's a difference.
That's okay. So this is where I was going to say I was going to get in trouble. Like, I like Florida Georgia Line. Oh no. Yeah, that's how I am. So that's what I like.
I can separate the two. Like, I can appreciate music that comes out of Nashville, Tennessee, and think it's good music and like fun to listen to, but it's not country. And Alex agrees with me on this. That's
fine. You guys, it's okay. I like it. Again, this is why I should have probably given you a rap. I could give you some Jay-Z something, but no,
I didn't mean to slander you there too much, buddy.
No, it's okay. It's been happening a lot lately, apparently.
This guy's from Alabama. Don't forget that. All right, rapid 5, then we'll get you out of here. You ready?
All right. Please go easy on me.
How many Mizzou football games will you attend this fall?
I might attend Columbia and drink a lot and then not attend the game. But that would probably be, I don't know, maybe 2 or 3, maybe.
Over under 749.5 yards for Luther Burden as a freshman.
This guy better go over with how much I hear about him. I've got friends who love that program, who love this guy. I mean, he better go over, or else I'm just going to be like, what are we doing? Over
under 6.5 wins for the Mizzou football team.
They better go over with that too. They better. It's been, I mean, a lot of talk, a lot of recruiting. Let's get there. Over.
Rank these 3 shows: Breaking Bad, Yellowstone, Ozark.
You put me in a pot. I haven't seen any of the shows. You crushed me.
None?
You crushed me on that. I watch shows, but I haven't seen any of those 3.
What are your 3 favorite shows you've seen recently?
Recently, I watched Drive to Survive on Netflix. Okay. F1 show. I'm all in. I'm watching We Own This City. It's like the Wire-ish sequel on HBO. Gosh, what else have I seen recently? I've been watching a lot of Royals baseball, let me tell you. I don't know. I've seen a couple episodes of Winning Time. Pretty good. But yeah, the fact I haven't seen the 3 you mentioned, you're probably like, this guy's a maniac. And I am. But yeah.
Over under 97.5 losses for the Royals this year.
It's under 97.5.
So you are not hitting the panic button yet.
Is the panic button 97? I mean, the panic to me,
Dude, they're on pace for 106.
Oh, yeah, I know. I know it's rough. The panic button, I don't know. I'm hitting the panic button. Yeah, the panic button is ringing in my ears. I don't know. I guess 97 is that's a lot. I don't know. To me, if they lose like 95, it's gonna be like, holy cow. But yeah, they're on pace for 106 apparently. Oof,
I mean, they're on pace for 106, and they are 20 times 4, 7, a seventh of the way in. Like the progression they would have to
16,
make. The progression they'd have to make is like significant progression through the rest of the season.
At least they're not losing to teams like Baltimore.
What's going to happen when they go to Texas this week? I mean, Texas isn't exactly good, but
they've been pretty good recently, actually. What's going to happen? I would make a prediction, but it wouldn't be very bold.
So anyway,
yeah, I don't know. 97 is 97. Oh, that doesn't hit the ears good. Wow.
I mean, honestly, if I gave you a free $1,000 bet in Vegas and the over under was, I'll give you 92.5. That's 70 wins. 70 and 92. Are you taking the under on 92.5 losses? Do you think they can get to 70 wins? Like for sure? Free bet.
I ain't making that free bet. No.
So I mean, that's kind of where I'm at. Is I'm looking at it going, they're going to get better, but I don't know how much better and what's going to stop them from having other 7 and 19 runs like this. I mean, what is the, or are they 9 and 17?
9 and 17.
They're 9. What's going to stop them from having more runs like this? What is the clear answer for that?
Yeah, I don't have that answer for you. No,
I'm looking at it like this. Yeah. This is going to get like seriously.
You said they're going to get better,
but how much better do they have to be to avoid losing 90 games again? Like a lot, like significantly. Mm-hmm. And I just don't know. Like I am the last guy to hit the panic button because I said this year doesn't matter. Let the kids play. They're not even doing that. They can't even have fun while they lose. We got to watch Ryan O'Hearn lose. Like that's the thing with me. If you're going to lose young because we don't have to go there anyway.
You just cut yourself.
No, you've been on here for 40 minutes. I don't want to make it another 40 because it could
go there.
Yep. So anyway, Alec, thank you. I know you're busy. I know the Royals are making it hard for you to write about things because they are not only bad, but they're not fun. This isn't even a fun, bad team to watch. Like the 2012 Royals, not a great team, but they were fun to watch because they had kids all over the place. So I cannot imagine. Like that's the hedge for writing about the minors is I got 4 teams I can write about all the time. Like I got 4 teams to pick from and you've got uno. We got 1. So Godspeed.
Yeah, if you have any ideas on stories, just find me on Twitter, send me a DM. I'll need about 1,700 to get through this year. So just whatever you got. Yeah, all ears. But no, I appreciate you guys having me. It's been an interesting first 26 games. They play, if you're listening to this on Tuesday, they play tonight. We'll see what happens. I'll be in Texas living it up.
It's going to be hot. It's going to be real hot.
Scorcher.
They're inside that stadium that looks like a Menards. So
yeah. Do you have a favorite spot to eat in Dallas?
I went when I was there this spring. I went to Terry Black. Actually, there are 2 barbecue. I went to barbecue back-to-back days. I went to Terry Black's, ridiculously good. Then went to a place called Hard 8.
Those are my 2.
That was also, it was special. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. You find me I'll be eating a taco somewhere. I don't know. I'm gonna have a good time in Texas. I don't know.
There's a Mexican restaurant. I can't remember the name of it right now. I've got it on my phone. I will find it and I will send it to you because it is unbelievable. But Texas or Terry Black's is also some of the best barbecue I've ever had. Like
it was great.
It's different than Kansas City, but it's oh my god. So all right, man. Thank you very much for your time. I appreciate you.
Thank you guys. Respect what you guys do as always. But no, thank you. Thank you guys.
All right. That was Alec Lewis. We will be right back on the other side of this. All right. Big thanks to Alec Lewis of The Athletic for coming on. That was great stuff. It's always It's always great to talk to people who are more connected than we are, just to bounce ideas off of Alec and say, hey, Alec, what are you hearing about this? Or what do you think about that? And, the connections that he has and the relationships that he's built, just to be able to bounce ideas off somebody like that is always awesome. And, I love Alec, and he does great work, and we give him crap about the Homer jokes, but the reality of it is that there are things to be excited about, and there's reasons to like the Royals and want to be positive. And then we mentioned it, Joel, on One Royal Way last week. It's just, they do so many little things to piss you off that make it hard to pay attention to the positives. Like, stop shooting yourself in the foot, make the obvious moves to get the kids in, to let the kids play, #kids let the kids play. And nobody will be mad at you anymore. All you have to do are the obvious little things, and people will relax, but they just refuse. And so here we are.
Yeah, no, we always appreciate having Alec on. He's always gracious with his time, which is really appreciated, and offers in some insight. And it's been really cool to watch him kind of grow on the job. Like, when he talked about this a little bit off air, that he was 22, fresh out of college, never covered baseball, and got a job covering a Major League Baseball team. That's a really cool opportunity. And, a couple years later, I mean, he's really coming into his own, like, in his craft. His stories are great. The insight is great. And he does a really good job covering our team.
Yeah, he's awesome, man.
Now that he's not here, I can blow more smoke up him, because he's actually very, very good at his job.
He has stopped listening by this point. If he decides to run that back at all, he has stopped listening. So we are not actually talking to Alec anymore. But anyway, so let's do this. Let's get into a quick little preview of the week for the Big League Club, because I think they're coming up on what might be a weekend where things could shift. Excuse me. And so I want to talk about it really quick with you, Joel. They're in Texas for 3, and they're in Colorado for 3. Can they win 3 of these games? Will they win 3 of these games?
Okay, can they? Yes. Will they? I don't know. Playing in Texas, it is a super coin flip winning in Texas, especially with the way the pitching has been. It's been solid and fine, but Colorado, we think, even with a dead ball, the ball is going to fly. So I don't know. This team is so confounding and puzzling game to game. I honestly have no idea. And that's coming from somebody that I do a podcast specifically about the Big League Club, and week to week, like, I have no idea what we're going to see. We watched a team go out and play their best game of the year against the Cardinals last Tuesday, and then play one of their worst games of the year the next day. So who knows? Big old shrug emoji.
So the good thing they have going for them is that Brad Keller will throw 2 of those 6 games, and you'll get Greinke in 1. So let's say you win 2 of those games, 2 of the 3 thrown by Greinke and Keller, means you got to win 1 of the other 4, 1 of the other 3. So I don't know. If they go 2-4 on this stretch, they will be 11-30. No, I'm sorry, 11-21. I don't know how I got 30. They'll be 11-21, 10 games under 500. I can start to see the ball rolling toward change. Not huge change, but if they go 2-4 and Ryan O'Hearn has a bad week and Carlos Santana doesn't return, I could see Vinny Pasquantino joining them for the home stretch next Monday.
I think we're getting pretty close to that. I know, and generally, like I said, you and I are pretty big Dayton Moore supporters, and he has talked about many times that he doesn't want to make any rash changes before 40 games. And to a certain point, I get it. Like, the process of that thinking, I understand, because you don't want to overreact too heavily to. Generally, 40 games is it's a decent sample, but not a big enough one, right? But when things have gone south so fast, so early, like, you have to make that change before 40. If you really want to turn things around, you want to try and win some ball games down as you head into June. So I hope that change comes sooner rather than later, because I don't want it to be too late to where you can't even try to turn things around and give you any sort of hope going into 23.
I agree. Let's get into final thoughts. We can talk more about this later this week on One Royal Way if you want to. Let's get into some final thoughts on the night. Joel, final thoughts.
Okay, so my final thoughts, if you're watching on YouTube, this will be a little more of a visual thing, so great audio platform work by me. But this past weekend, my wife and my mother-in-law went around like antique shopping and stuff. There was some like craft sale kind of in Bonner Springs right by where we live. My mother-in-law found these old packs of baseball cards, and I've started getting back into collecting them a little bit. And they're unopened packs from 1989 and 1991, completely unopened, like full seal, everything. And I got this really cool Bo Jackson card, rifleman. This was kind of talking about the iconic video of him throwing that ball about, 130 miles an hour from the outfield to first base. So that to be able to open that pack, have a Bo Jackson was cool. And then this is my favorite one. It is a Randy Johnson rookie from when he was with the Expos before he even got to Seattle. So I have these in my collection is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool. I am not a baseball card guy, but I am a memorabilia guy. Like, I wonder if I can. No, there's a mess in my basement right now because our 9-month-old keeps growing out of clothes and toys, and it's just a disaster. But you can see Tony G, and if I move, you can see the Alex Gordon autograph on the wall behind me. I've got a Mizzou Brad Smith jersey signed.
What a guy! What a legend!
When I was like 8, my dad had Brad Smith sign it and it says to future Tiger Alex. And I was like, I ended up at UCM, so I'm sure he's very disappointed in me now. But yeah, I collect memorabilia of some kinds, not baseball cards, so to speak. So my final thought on the night is our draft coverage is going to start ramping up here at Royals Farm Report. The college hitters in this draft are really good, but I'm starting to hear that maybe there could be some prep guys that we haven't been paying enough attention to that could jump in here. I'm starting to think that nobody knows nothing when it comes to this draft, and it could be one of the wilder drafts we've seen in a while. And I also say that with the caveat that they underslotted Mazzucato at number 7 last year. So that ended up being wild. I think this year could be sort of similar because I don't know what they're going to do. There's a ton of college bats I like. There's a bunch of prep bats I like. In theory, they should be able to get one. But if they took Andrew Dukanich from Indiana, would it surprise you? He works out with Will Klein with Coach Vogt in the offseason here. He did before Coach Vogt got a pro job. So anyway, I think there's a lot of possibilities. So pay attention to the website for draft coverage. Starts to ramping up a little bit. Our draft guide will be back this year. Our draft guide will be out early July. So you'll have a couple weeks to get familiar with the draft guide before the MLB draft. And then hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll have a live draft show again. Last year, Joel came over to the house and we did a Periscope, a live on Twitter, basically, of our reaction to the draft. But this year, hopefully we'll have a draft show of sorts covering the first 2 rounds. So stick with us. Draft coverage will be ramping up and things will be heating up over at Royals Farm Report very soon. Until then, thank you very much to KCSN, KCSC, Drum Farm. Thank you, Joel. Thank you to Alec Lewis of The Athletic and everybody else who's made this possible. We will see you guys again very soon. So long.